Well, I've always been interested in the investment arena. I mean, since the early days when I would deposit my paper route money to my bank account, and I noticed that I get credited interest at the bank, and I thought, well, that's kind of neat. I figured they were doing me a favor just by holding on to my money. Coming out of college, I took a job with a local bank because they provided a training program where they'd rotate you around the different areas of the bank, and I felt that would be a good area, a good way for me to kind of find what my next step would be. After about 3 years, I ended up in the trust department and working on investments, and my mentor left to go to another institution, and I was in turn promoted to a trust officer. And I realized right then and there that there was something wrong with the picture. I 28 years old, managing $300 million, 300 relationships. I realized right there that I didn't want to just be one spoke in the wheel. I wanted to be the whole wheel. My father had a planning practice. It seemed like a good fork in the road for me to take in terms of taking the steps to be in my own business and working on the counsel that I wanted to provide with families as opposed to doing it from someone else's platform. So early in after my career change with my father, I would go in on the weekends to get a lot of my paperwork done. You know, I learned this business a case at a time, and that's how I learned, because I had to do everything. And I bring my son to the office to give my wife some peace on the weekends. And I remember him looking at the door when I was checking on the mail on the way out, and he was reading. And just when he was just first starting to read, and I didn't know. And he sees the name on the door, and he asks, "Dad, do you like your job?" And a thought bubble immediately goes over my head because he doesn't understand the depth of the question he was asking. And I see the families that I was working with, and I saw the relationships I was establishing, and I enjoyed meeting with them and coming to work and helping them make good decisions and not trying to sell them things, right? And I said, "Yeah, I do. I like my job." He said, "Good, then I'm going to come work with you." Well, so here we are 24 years later or so, or 20 years later. He's 24 now. And I think about the experiences I've had since then and the role that we've been blessed, where we've been invited into these families, and the confidence that we try to bring in terms of their decision making, and the reward that provides. There's no lack of motivation to get me up in the morning. It's very fulfilling, but it's also challenging too. You know, I mean, sometimes I'll answer a question. People ask me what I do, and I say, well, you know, my job, you know, is every family's got a 400-pound gorilla, and my job's to find them and fall on them because they're messing up decision making, right? But it's definitely very rewarding.